Oh, hello. Welcome to the CinemaDraft podcast. I'm the creator and CEO and founder of CinemaDraft, the game and the website, Edwardo Jackson, joined by my co-host, Peter Vogt, the lead designer on the CinemaDraft site. Say hello to the people, Peter.
Vote is in the building.
Vote your conscience. All right. So we are here. It's our first test pod. Things are gonna suck. Things are gonna be great, and things might be in between. And if you do end up seeing this, which is highly doubtful, please let us know what you thought. Either hit us with an email. You can hit us at help.cinemadraft@gmail.com or leave comments in this YouTube if we do get so brave to put it up. And maybe we can all ride to winning at the CinemaDraft game together. Yeah. So what is CinemaDraft? People are asking. Well, think of basically DraftKings meets the movies. So instead of drafting athletes from teams, you're drafting actors from movies. And the way that their movies perform at the North American box office, you earn points and win and competing against other people to win prizes, like straight cash homie. It's free to play. You can go take a look or sign up for the invite-only beta at http://cinemadraft.co and sign up for invite to the limited beta. We are currently testing it, trying to make sure it's ready for the people. And once it is, it will be the best thing you play on Thursday nights, I promise you, and daily if you're into some daily action. Now, just some concepts behind CinemaDraft. Just like I said, it's like fantasy sports, but for movies. And so actors have a salary cap. You get $100,000, and actors are valued differently. So if you have a movie like, say, Ghost Protocol, Tom Cruise is going to be worth more than Jeremy Renner. And so you have to figure out how to fit all these actors that you want, who you think are going to do well at the box office, into your call sheet under a $100,000 budget. Headliners like Tom Cruise are worth 40% more. So let's say if you had Suicide Squad and it earned 100 million, Margot Robbie would get 100 points, but Will Smith will get 140 points. So there's a little bit of strategy involved, and we'll get into all that stuff a little bit later as we close out the podcast. And also want to just get you guys acclimated to what's going to be the best thing you'll be playing on the weekends. CinemaDraft, cinemadraft.co. Make sure you check us out. Now, Peter, what up?
What up, fam?
As they say in Texas, where you used to live, what up with it? What up with it?
What up?
What's up with it? All right, so one of the things we wanted to do with each podcast is we want to hold our own sort of mock draft. And this podcast, our very first one, we're going to do the top 5, or not necessarily our top 5, but 5 of our best romantic comedies, and we're going to go one after each other, kind of snake draft style. So if Peter selects a film that I really want, then I can't choose that. And if I choose one that he really wants, he can't pick that one either. So there might be a little bit of strategy involved. And I know I'm front-loading some of the ones I want to go with, all right? And just to keep it fair, because I know he's probably going to snake some of my choices, we're going to flip a coin to see who starts first, all right?
Very equitable. A coin flip, you can't ever go wrong.
All right. So here we go. So here's the coin.
All
okay.
Right.
It is double-sided. All right. No cheating. And I'm gonna have Peter, since you're the guest, call in the air.
Tails never fails.
Shit. Tails. All right. Peter goes first.
All right. So when we talked about doing this beforehand, I started going through the list in my head of romantic comedies. And, it's funny. At first, I was like, man, I'm not really a romantic comedy guy. But then I kind of realized after a while, I'm like, shit, I have a lot of romantic comedies I like. And part of that is what made me think, like, what is a romantic comedy?
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into that, too. What do you consider to be a romantic comedy, Peter?
So I feel like to consider it a romantic comedy, there has to be a loose but pretty firm guideline that the entire plot needs to tie into whatever romance it happens to be. So let's take my number 1 pick, my unequivocal top all-time favorite romantic comedy, The Wedding Singer. Peak Adam Sandler.
Oh, wow. Yo, actually, Peter, I'm pretty sure you could have waited on that one, but all right, we'll take it off the board. Wedding Singer.
Peak Adam Sandler.
All right. So, yeah, do tell. The Adam Sandler classic with Drew Barrymore. Give us your pitch on The Wedding Singer. Sell me on The Wedding Singer.
So what's great about The Wedding Singer is it's the story of the average Joe, right? He lives in his sister's basement. He's a wedding singer full time, and his whole life is based around love. And then his whole world falls apart because the woman he's going to marry decides, heck no, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm not living in your sister's basement with you. So she dumps him on his wedding day, which is, spoiler alert, we're like 15 or 16 years after the release date or whatever. So dumps him on his wedding day, on their wedding day. And then his whole life starts to spiral out of control. And he falls in love with his coworker, Drew Barrymore, who's just the model of innocence, who's just shackled down with this absolute shitbag of a Wall Street trader fiance. And, and they fall in love, yada, 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 as they say, and they fall in love. And so I think that The Wedding Singer is a perfect romantic comedy because it's all about romance. It's all about heartbreak from the jump to the end. And there's a whole the plot is based completely around that, but it never stops being funny. From the second that Steve Buscemi comes out and he's embarrassing him at the wedding and falling over drunk and whatnot, to fucking Billy Idol at the end on the airplane. Nobody talks to Billy Idol that way. That movie is... It never once, no matter how lovey-dovey or how fucking dark it gets, never stops being funny. So to me, that's like the perfect romantic comedy. That's my pitch.
All right, all right. So take The Wedding Singer off the board. I was a little skeptical at first, but you know what, Peter? I think I'm convinced. Well done. You explained that really well. And you're right. I think one thing that's often overlooked a lot of times in romantic comedies is that they have to be funny. And that's why, so a little background on me, dear viewers. I used to write movies and screenplays on the fringes of Hollywood. And a lot of times I had to write romantic comedies. And trust me, I can write a romantic comedy like 20, 25 different ways. Raunchy, upbrow, lowbrow, whatever. And one of the things we found, my writing partner and I, Greg Colleton, found out was that it's really hard to do a plausible romantic comedy only because there's so many conventions out there and tropes that you kind of have to feed into. There's always the run at the end, and we used to fight that stuff too. We'd be in meetings, we'd be like, we don't want to run, or there'd be something missing, and a producer would be like, you know what this needs? This needs a run. And you know what? They would be right. So I mean, what do you feel? How do you feel, before I go into my number one pick overall? How do you feel about some of those tropes like the run or kissing in the rain or stuff like that?
Yeah, well, you keep saying the run, and every time you say that, I keep thinking of The Graduate with the fucking boom, 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 boom at the end of the movie. And so to kind of answer your question, sort of, at least it gives us good comedy fodder, because movies like Wayne's World 2, who parody that kind of like trope, that's always a good time. I don't like super. As a hardcore movie guy, I have a flair for the dramatic and all that, but like I really like avoiding tropes when I can. Like it really sort of ruins the cinematic experience sometimes. Like look, The Notebook might be a fucking phenomenal movie, and I'm sure that like the credit that it gets is well due, but I'm not watching that shit because, like you said, it's all.
You haven't seen The Notebook?
I've never seen it, and I like Ryan Gosling.
And yet you're married somehow? How did that happen?
I know. I still don't know how that happened, but but
no Notebook. All right. Well, two heartbreaks, ladies of America. He won't watch The Notebook, and he's married. So
watch out, ladies.
Knock him off your list. Knock him off your list. All right, so I'm gonna jump into it. My number one pick, and I probably could wait on this, but I'm too scared because I know you'd probably just pick it just to fuck with me. So I'm picking, of course, my favorite movie of all time, hands down, no discussion. I probably don't even have to say it. Say it for me, Peter.
Boomerang.
Abso-freaking-lutely.
That's you consider that a romantic comedy? I don't consider that a romantic comedy.
Whoa! Okay, all right. So you think that's romantic drama? No.
I think
you think it's a straight up comedy?
Yeah, like a comedy with an element of drama, but that's so. This we're going off.
It's totally romantic. I mean, because the whole thing is bent up around. All right, so basically, Boomerang. You know, if you aren't familiar, and if not, shame on you. Or actually, do we have that? Yeah, shame on you. You need to go see that. Boomerang is that heat. All right. So basically, it's Eddie Murphy in his prime, 28-year-old Eddie Murphy, back in the early '90s, in this chocolate world of successful, powerful black people running stuff. He's an advertising exec. He's a player who never gets played, knows all the ins and outs of how to play the dating game in the early '90s. Fly suits, fly office, fly job, and everything. And then he comes across this woman he has to have, who ends up being his boss, Robin Givens. And wouldn't you know, she turns out to be an even bigger player than him. And she ends up breaking his heart, and it takes Halle Berry, who for the first half of the movie looks broke as fuck, coming up to kind of restore his heart for him to really, you know, figure out what love's about. Of course, he stumbles along the way, but it's just such a classic. I mean, it's a somewhat classic romance, but it's a really, really funny movie. Going into what Peter said earlier about how romantic comedies never stop being funny, and even Eddie Murphy at his worst, even when he's in his doldrums, it's funny. Like you see, like there's this whole montage of when he's just kind of sitting there, you know, watching, you know, screens of clouds pass by to like one of the best soundtracks ever. You know, the Boomerang soundtrack is just, it's timeless. Or when he's sitting there waiting on Jacqueline, that's Robin Givens' character, to call, you know, and he's just doing all sorts of things like spinning the chair and, you know, playing a little Jenga with his pencil. You know, I mean, it's or how he's all pouty and stuff. It's just really funny. It's nonstop. It's added to the cultural lexicon. Every time I say Stranger, I get it from Boomerang. It's a phenomenal movie. Plus, you also have Martin Lawrence and David Alan Grier, also in their late 20s, also in their prime, delivering just some fantastic comedy. And of course, the dinner scene to end all dinner scenes with John Witherspoon. Bang, 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 bang. Got to coordinate and all that stuff. It's an amazing movie. Check it out. Boomerang. I think it was 1991 by the Hudlin brothers. Eddie Murphy. Oh, yeah.
So you've sold me, but I have two things to say. One of which is, I think if we did top 5 lists every week, you would find a way to work Boomerang into number 1, no matter what the topic was.
Yes.
But so this kind of goes back to what I was saying about what makes a romantic comedy is I never saw that movie as a romantic comedy until now, because I personally feel like you have to have a pretty serious or at least like very blatant cornball element to the movie, like to be a true, at least in my eye. I'm just talking about me. Like,
and Boomerang's not corny, huh? It's just fun.
Yeah, it's very fun, and I think of Boomerang as a story of, like, you know, Eddie Murphy being a fucking marketing badass or an ad exec type badass before I do like the romance. But that is, I guess, you know, that is part of the whole big thing of the story. But yeah, I mean, regardless, no matter what list it sits on, Boomerang's a phenomenal movie. It's not nearly as appreciated as it should be, in my opinion.
Oh, no. One of these days. All right, so second pick, you're up. What do you got, Peter?
Second pick is tough. I have a lot that kind of are fighting for the same spot there. But I have to say that I think
also strategy, you know, might be involved here. I mean, there might be some movies that we kind of, you know, co-share that you might want to get in there so you can have your piece first.
No, you're right.
Because once you pick it, it's off the board. I can't pick it.
I don't know that we have a lot of really serious overlap here. In this,
well, yeah. I mean, if you don't like, you know, The Notebook. I mean, that's not a romantic comedy, but I mean, my goodness, The Notebook.
Well,
that lets you know how different our opinions do vary.
I've got like a 3-way tie for this, and I'm not obviously that's, you know, I'm not gonna say all 3, but they're kind of all on the same line. So. Okay. But kind of that like mid-2000s Judd Apatow vibe, but then also though I'm going to push those to the side, and I'm going to say that number 2, and it's close to number 1 also as well, would be There's Something About Mary.
Inspired.
Yeah, huge Farrelly Brothers fan. You know, Southern Massachusetts, Northern Rhode Island represent. Peak Ben Stiller. Cameron Diaz is just the fucking woman who has got it all, and she is that woman who that's the thing. They do like I'm not into blondes, right? But like I'm not super attracted to blondes.
Sorry, Blonde America. He's going to alienate every one of our last viewers, but go ahead.
Well,
I'm teasing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like generally speaking, I'm not attracted to blondes, but that movie builds her up as being such a mythical creature, like from his childhood, and then you see her and she's gorgeous and she's a fucking doctor and you know all this shit, and much like The Wedding Singer, it never stops being funny, and it's off the wall funny too. Like some of the scenes, like when he gets caught at the rest area, and then he winds up in prison in the South, in jail in the South, and like the 7-minute abs, all that stuff. It's got all the over the top ridiculousness of a Farrelly Brothers movie like Dumb and Dumber, but it also is the perfect romance like date movie, and that to me is like a great romantic comedy. It's fucking hilarious, and it's like a movie that you could go out on a date and have a really good time and feel romantic about.
Now, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because what you mentioned earlier about how you thought of Boomerang as strictly a comedy, I honestly thought of There's Something About Mary as just a comedy until now you mentioned that it is a romantic comedy. I might have to rewatch that through fresh eyes.
Yeah, because if you look at it, it's like the whole plot is just centered around him winning the girl, you know, and so
point.
he meets her in high school, he loses her, you know, he almost rips his fucking dick off. He loses her, and then he like spends his whole life thinking about her, and then 10 years later or whatever, 15 years later, you know, he decides, fuck it, I'm going to hire a private investigator to find her, which is, and they touch on this in the movie, it's creepy as hell. But, you know, the point is that the whole movie is about him trying to win her over, and then, you know, all the other guys who have tried to win her over and all that, and him trying to build up this love with her and eventually succeeding. So, and it's never not funny.
Well, you know what? I'm sold. You convinced me. I may have to take a look at that once again through fresh eyes. So I'm going to do my second pick, and that is going to be, and just to get it off the board, I mean, and there may not be overlap, but I'm pretty sure it'd be on your list somewhere, especially if we had a list down to 10, which we don't, viewers, we only have 5 each. I'm going with, of course, When Harry Met Sally. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the funny thing is, and almost, so if you do a Google search, right, of best romantic comedies, no lie, it is the first
number one
that shows up. It's one that shows up. It was on my list regardless, and I was actually kind of struggling to fill out, like, I wanted to have at least 7, just in case Peter, you know, vultured a couple of my picks. But When Harry Met Sally was always off the top of my dome because, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche. It's actually pretty old school. I mean, I'm an old guy. I'm 40. But, I mean, I remember seeing it back in, like, I think it was high school, and just being blown away at how just nuanced it was and how true it was, the whole friend zone thing. And granted, that's my own emotional baggage, you know. I mean, no one wants to be, you know, a hot girl's, you know, best friend or whatever. I mean, being a platonic friend of a pretty girl is like being a glorified eunuch. And I'm not down for that. So yeah. I love the fact that from jump, Billy Crystal is like, you know, when he meets Meg Ryan, he's like, you know, men and women can't be friends. Like, sure they can't. No, they can't. And then they become friends. But at the end, of course, because it's Hollywood, because this shit almost rarely happens in real life, he gets out of the friend zone and gets the girl. So that's one of my favorite movies really. I mean, I'm not sure if it's like a top 10, but it's really up there. It really holds up over time. When Harry Met Sally, 1989, Rob Reiner and company, really good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good pick, and I did see also on IMDb's top 100, it's listed as number 1. Hold
on. That's the number 1 romantic comedy or number 1 movie overall on IMDb?
Romantic comedy.
Oh, okay. Whew, let's say.
And yeah, I mean, I'm sure number 1 overall is fucking Citizen Kane or some shit like that.
Or something,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I think that's a good pick, and I didn't pick it. I didn't pick it because I'm just not crazy about it. Like it's a good movie. I don't like Billy Crystal, honestly. I like Meg Ryan, but I'm not a big Billy Crystal guy.
You know, and you know what I think Billy Crystal isn't even what I would call an acquired taste. He has his moments, but he has an entire moment for that duration of that film. And that's what I can appreciate. There's other stuff like, City Slickers, it's okay. I saw it in the theater when I was a kid. It was kind of funny, whatever. And he hits or misses a lot of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't go. I mean, if he's headlining a film, that's not impetus enough for me to go out and see a movie anymore. But in this movie, it's like one extended moment where he's like at the top of his game. It's, as we would say, peak Billy Crystal. So that's fair enough.
I can't think of one movie that's starring him that I really, really liked.
Touche. All right. Well, for Peter, there is no peak Crystal.
No, it's all downhill. It's all a sad, wrinkled, curly-haired man who got to play for the Yankees for a day because he's got a lot of money and made an ass out of himself publicly. That's just the Boston Red Sox fan hater in me speaking. Anyway. And on that beautiful segue, let's go to your third pick, Peter. Okay,
let's restore our faith in romantic comedies.
So I'm pushing. So Something About Mary pushed the trio of the Judd Apatow era, like late 2000s movies. Because like I said, there's I think there's three, but there might even be more than that all could probably take this place. But out of all of them, my favorite is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Really?
What? Oh, come on.
I'm so at the time I used to also write movie reviews. I've kind of started them up again. I'm pretty sure I gave Forgetting Sarah Marshall either 3 or 4 reels out of 4. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I'm curious how this makes your cut. Go ahead. Yeah, explain to the people.
It seemed come on. It seems kind of like beating a dead horse now because I think that movie came out in like 2008. So a lot of it has kind of been done to death. Like the Judd Apatow train, for instance, has kind of been done to death a little bit. And then like the Russell Brand train has really been done.
Oh, it's come and gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's come and gone. But
like a bullet train.
I know, but in 2008, that shit was fucking hysterical. Like that, like I remember, like Russell Brand, like spilling the wine on him, or the waiter Jonah Hill spills wine on him, and he's like, "Oh, not Mr. Tommy Bahama, take my eyes, not the shirt." Like that, I thought that movie was like, it kind of shares that same, vibe with, what is it, The Wedding Singer, where it gets like crazy dark because he got dumped and. Actually, the whole fucking plot's pretty dark if you think about it, but it's so funny, and everybody involved just did such a great job. And yeah, I really like that. If you look at my 3 versus your 2 so far, mine definitely they kind of take more of a like zany, kind of off the wall, like slapstick type vibe.
Yeah, they're very heavy on the comedy, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think part of that is because like that's what I grew up watching. Like my dad and I would watch like Wayne's World, Tommy Boy, all that like SNL graduate stuff. So like that kind of is affecting my choices. But yeah, Forgetting Sarah Marshall I really like a lot.
So I just had to just dive into the archives of my my earlier incarnation as a movie critic. I wrote movie reviews mostly for kind of local papers and stuff, an online outfit called blackinla.com, and I dove in to see what I did give Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and like you, so this is like 2008. You're right. So it's like April 18th, 2008. And my movie biases were it's Apatow, it's R, it's a go. I was very excited about it, and I gave it 4 reels. I was very excited about it, and part of it was like my opening line is, one thing we can all agree upon is that breakups suck. They're about as fun as drinking battery acid, and having recently endured one myself, perhaps that's why I relate so well to Forgetting Sarah Marshall. If you've ever been broken up with, this movie is for you. This movie is definitely for you. So well done, Peter. You totally, yeah, that's right. Throw it up. You redeemed yourself.
That's so on point because it really is just dealing with a harsh fucking breakup. Like, just, you know, he really got flat out dumped. He got, not only because it's one thing when you have a relationship with somebody and then you kind of you agree to split up, or like maybe you want to initiate the conversation of breaking up, but they also are there mentally as well, and it kind of ends amicably. But then there's those breakups where like you get left in the fucking dirt. And, you know, this was that, like, big time. Like, she left his ass. She was cheating on his ass. I think they said in that scene when they're out on the surfboards, like, she was cheating on him with Russell Brand for, like, years or whatever. It was a hard breakup. But the movie's funny. It's lighthearted. It makes you feel good at the end with the resolution. Mila Kunis, very magical, very lit. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, Mila Kunis. She's definitely. I mean, so she's reaching out in Bad Moms, and it's funny. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and the co-host like, "Oh, I hated Bad Moms." Like, I love Bad Moms. So I don't know. I don't think she's a polarizing figure, but I think I'm glad that she's still getting work, still looking good, and she's got a great life. She's married to your next tech billionaire, probably Ashton Kutcher. I did that just to needle you. All right, so my third one, just take it off the board, is okay. You're gonna clown me for this, and I don't care, because this is as cheesy as it gets. Everyone loves this movie, probably except for you. I'm totally prejudicing the jury pool, but it has to be Love Actually.
There it is. That's the one.
That's the one that we overlapped.
Sorry. Yeah. We don't overlap. This is,
that's what I thought.
For all one or two of the people who end up listening to this, Eduardo and I spoke real briefly before we started about the one movie that we got in an argument about that I thought was going to be on this list, and here it is. So go ahead, take it away.
Well, no, so I mean, and that's another one. So in your non-cornball of America's defense, thing about Love Actually is that at the time it came out, like at that exact time, whatever, like I was really going, like I'd really broken up with somebody or something, and I just could not feel that movie at all. It was just so happy and Christmassy and sweet and what I mean. Actually it's really got some dark moments, whatever, and the whole thing with the kid who lost his parent and everything. But man, I mean, it really holds up over time, and just all the, I mean, it's really hard to pull off one of those movies where there are all the different subplots, whatever, and then somewhat organically tie them together, and they all really come together really well. But just little threads between the storylines that were really clever. I mean, Hugh Grant is the prime minister who falls for what, I mean, she looks fine to me, but I guess she would be considered plus size, whatever, his plus size secretary. That's a great subplot. The whole thing with Andrew Lincoln, who I guess now U.S. viewers know him as the guy from Walking Dead, which I don't even watch, but that was my first exposure to Andrew Lincoln, like his kind of lusting after Keira Knightley, who was marrying his best friend. I mean, it's just, there's something to be said about movies that give you a feeling, and Love Actually is definitely the type of movie that, if you're in the right mindset for it, gives you that feeling. And I remember giving it 3 reels and out of 4, and then going back over time and like, I didn't like rewrite the review or anything, but if people asked me like who had read my review then or talked about movies, I would say that at the time I couldn't feel it, but once I got out of my own stuff, I could really, really appreciate that movie. It's a classic, a holiday classic, a romantic classic, and it is funny in several spots, especially that whole subplot with freaking Simon Pegg, I think, as the nude, as like the nude stand-in trying to find love. It's some good stuff, y'all. Check it out.
I'm not with it, man. I'm not with it. So my ex-girlfriend, like, this was probably, I would say, I'm not with it. That's I'm not with it gone. I would say that movie probably came out in what, like 2004?
Yeah, because that's around the time I broke up with old girl.
Yeah, I saw it in like 2010, I think 2011, and it was one of my ex-girlfriend's favorite movies. And so I honestly don't think that's playing that. I don't think that's playing in very much, because her and I ended on pretty good terms. But here's my thing. So one thing you gotta know about me, not a Christmas movie guy.
2003. Sorry, it was holiday season 2003, like November.
2003. All right,
Yeah.
so I was close. And I don't do Christmas movies. I just don't do them. My favorite Christmas movie. My favorite Christmas movie is Bad Santa. So if that tells you how I look at Christmas, if that tells you how I look at Christmas and Christmas movies, then I think that gives you a good picture. But so second of all, I thought that movie was just. It was too corny, man. Like, it was too much. Like, it was so heavy-handed in, like, the sap. Like, the whole... Like, everybody's hearts melt at that scene where he's holding the signs, like, you're
perfect. Yes, like,
and
I'm like, yes.
I'm ready to puke. I'm ready to puke. Like, just thinking.
So you like your romance bloody like a raw steak, huh?
I can't think of the last time I saw a romance movie where I like romance to be realistic, and Love Actually is not realistic. I don't think.
No, that's totally fair. But so in reading the last line of my review of there, and this still baffles me how I could give it such a shitty review comparatively to what a good movie it is. It says, "This is the ultimate date movie for the holiday season, or any season for that matter. If you can't get some from this movie, there is none to be had. But I give it 3 reels." What was I thinking? All right,
well,
that's just.
You had biases in play there. I get it, man. I understand, but like,
I'm not even sure if I told my audience I was like in a heartbreak or whatever. I just was like, screw this movie. All right, well that's my bad, and we're gonna put the past behind us and move on to my number 4 selection. I'm now actually feeling a little more comfortable, feeling a little more breathing room, feeling like I can be a little. Feel like most of my favorite movies will be, or it's only 2 left that I can actually list. So I'm feeling okay. I got my big ones off my chest. It is a dogfight at the end of this ballot, but
wait! Time out! You just picked.
Oh God! I guess I love this movie enough for both of us. Sorry. Your turn.
you picked, and now I'm up. Okay. So
there needs to be a womp womp. But all right, go ahead.
Boom. Okay, so I'm gonna go back kind of in the direction that you've been going in, and kind of move away from my zany, fucking ridiculous comedy sort of bias, or not bias, but picks. I'm gonna go with Titanic here. I think that's a little. I mean, we're kind of really getting.
That's not a comedy.
You don't think that's got the comedy element to it? Like the whole...
Wow. Okay. Hot take alert. Titanic as romantic comedy. No, go for it. I definitely want to see that. This should be very, very interesting.
Oh, no. I just think, like, out of the balance of romance and comedy, I've been so heavy on the comedy that I'm going kind of more towards the romance drama side.
Okay. Well, no. Pitch me why Titanic is a romantic comedy.
I'll tell you why. Because it's become a meme in the last 5-6 years. That's all. That's the only reason. Because I look back on it. Think about the great memes that have come out of Titanic. I'm king of the world. Paint me like one of your French girls. Gentlemen, it's been an evening playing with you tonight. Okay. All right. So if you don't like that one, I have another one.
No. Stand by it. I love it. It's controversial. It might actually get some people talking about it. We accept you as you are, Peter. Titanic is romantic comedy. I love it.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I feel, and that's part of the problem with these lists, I think, sometimes when people read them and are like, what the fuck was he thinking? I'm talking about, like, my favorite, not what I think are the best, but like,
sure.
You know what I mean? Because there's a difference between saying something is objectively the best in like a genre, or like the objectively most talented like football player, Tom Brady. But
I mean, you bring up a really good point as far as like, I mean, 'cause that's the whole thing about art is that it's subjective. At least in sports, you have statistics, you have like numerical, value, you have metrics. With art, I mean, there's really no real way to say who's the best at what. I mean, you can say someone's good or really good. Meryl Streep's got all those Oscars, but you can't really say, that so and so is a better actor than so and so because there's no objective way to measure it. There's not. So whatever's best to you, it can be the best. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, to me, Titanic is mostly a romance movie. I get that, right? But like, if I had to go away from the comedy and go heavy on the romance, that's the one that I would pick.
Okay. But, all right. Well, then let me come in with my number 4. So this one, I don't think it's in danger of being taken by you, but it's in your universe. I could see you, eventually getting to this down your list. And I'm gonna say Chasing Amy.
That's a good one, man. That's a good pick. That's definitely.
I was a little nervous because a lot of people. I mean, I know he's from your hood, Ben Affleck and stuff. Like, I know some people get, and Damon makes a very funny cameo in that movie too. Some people, either love him or hate him. But honestly, I mean, even despite that weird kind of middle part of his career, I've always thought Ben Affleck's a talented actor. He's been in a lot of good stuff that everyone has enjoyed over the years. And Chasing Amy was a really funny romantic comedy about a guy, Ben Affleck, who falls in love with a lesbian, and by some quirk of nature, which probably would never be PC or able to be made today, she ends up falling in love with him back. He basically turned a lesbian. Okay, that's realistic. But it's really fun because it's set in the world of comic books, which is its own interesting subculture. I love any movie or show that brings me into a subculture or world I haven't experienced before. Matter of fact, I've got Narcos paused right now, like episode 5. Can't wait to get back to that shit. That shit is lit, family. Very lit. A lot of subtitles. Very lit. And I really appreciate and there's a lot to be said in Chasing Amy as far as the nature of love. Yeah, it's as far as romantic comedies go, it's pretty realistic. I mean, I don't think there's a run. There might be one run, but it's not a huge centerpiece. But there is that kissing in the rain scene or being dumped in the rain. That, I mean, some tropes you just have to do. I mean, it's like it's like when I don't know. It's like when the bad guy dies at the end. I mean, yeah, it's a little stereotypical, whatever, but sometimes it needs to be done. So it's a little light on the romantic tropes, but it's a really interesting situation, really cool world. Everyone's really funny. Jason Lee, that was actually the first movie that I saw with Jason Lee that I thought, okay, this guy's got some star potential. I don't think he ever truly lived up to it per se. Had a nice career on TV, but he was really funny in it. It was about the nature of romance. A lot of good stuff going on for Chasing Amy. You should definitely check it out.
No, I totally agree. I have no dispute whatsoever. I'm a big Kevin Smith guy.
We agree.
We agree. I'm a big Kevin Smith guy, at least in terms of the early stuff that he did. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. But
yes to all that. Yes.
For sure. And, you asked earlier how I feel about real heavy-handed tropes. And I will say that if you're going to do, at least in my book, if you're going to do heavy-handed tropes, a movie like this with sort of an unconventional at the time plotline is a really killer place in my opinion, to do them. Because you've got this a guy who falls into love with a lesbian and, she ends up whatever, liking him back, or however you want to put it, I guess. But and so in that movie, it almost, to me, makes a lot more sense to pull the trope rabbits out of the hat, because you've already got a baseline kind of unorthodox for movies storyline.
Yeah, sometimes you just need the tropes, conventions, plot, somewhat predictable plot points, only to bring in what's such a flight of fancy back into something that more people can relate to. So I definitely agree with that. All right, so Peter, this is your last pick, and actually we can even go over briefly afterwards what didn't make the cut. But tell us, what is the last movie you want to put up here in our inaugural CinemaDraft draft, our 5 best or most interesting romantic comedies.
All right, I'm closing with a good one here. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Really interesting. Okay, I support that as a native Seattleite, for which that part of that movie was filmed. I support your selection. Give it to the people. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Listen, first of all, modernized Shakespeare, Taming of the Shrew. I mean, come on.
True.
You can't watch that and not realize, and you can't watch that and say, oh, that's such an obvious Shakespeare adaptation. No, it's a totally, it stands completely on its own as a, not unique story, but it's its own story. It's its own characters, but it's the Taming of the Shrew. Beautiful backdrop of Seattle and, that whole surrounding area. Beautiful school that they filmed it at.
That was actually my high school, by the way.
You mentioned that to me
Lakeside.
before.
That was my high school. They filmed it at.
It's hilarious, like the whole scene. So many iconic scenes. Him singing Frankie Valli to her on the football field in the bleachers. Just like so.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my school. I was thinking of Say Anything. No, wrong school. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think, I'm not totally certain. But I think this was kind of his breakout where he was in Third Rock from the Sun, and everyone knew him from that. And I feel like they put out that movie and were like, oh, French Stewart is probably not going anywhere, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's got a career in front of him.
He's Snowden coming. Can't wait.
Oh, we can save a whole other podcast for that because
hashtag America.
Oh my God! No, not even that. Anyway, so listen. So listen. Great movie. Heath Ledger at his best, peak Heath Ledger, if you will. Rest in peace. And just a really, really fucking well done movie all around. Everybody, the whole love triangle between. He loves Larissa Oleynik, a.k.a. Alex Mack on Nickelodeon. He loves Larissa Oleynik, but can't go out with her because the older sister is jaded because so many twists and, not twists and turns, but so many interconnected little bits of the storyline. And it's very high school in that way. Like, the older sister is super jaded and won't go out on dates. And you find out it's because of the fucked up, the asshole jock who, screwed her over really badly and who Larissa Oleynik loves and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's competing with and blah, blah. Just wonderful movie. Very, very high school, very Shakespeare, very lit family.
Okay, 10 Things I Hate About You. Wow, yeah, I haven't seen that in forever, but I really enjoyed it when it came out. I believe I saw it in the theaters. I did like the ode to Seattle. I represent my hood. I'm from Seattle, the 206. What? And yeah, very solid pick. And yes, Heath Ledger, man. Charming, young. Heartbreaker, the accent, all that stuff. That's good. That's a good pick. And for that you went out strong.
I'm hip.
I'm
jiggy with it. I'm hip. I'm jiggy with it.
As we say down south, you went out strong. Okay, so my last one, I'm in a four-way battle for my soul right now. I think I'm gonna settle on something that's a little bit more conventional, but we're gonna both go over a few of the ones that that didn't make our list because I just feel bad I left any of these out, and they're almost all like tied with each other. This breaks my heart. I'm gonna go with for my final one, Notting Hill. That's right.
Okay.
What do you got? No, real quick, go for it. What do you got?
I haven't. I haven't seen it. That's the only thing. So I'm killing the.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay. Okay. So, all right. This is the money shot. This is the movie that. All right. So, with no spoilers or anything. There's really no spoiler. Basically, all romantic comedies or most romantic comedies tend to end the same way. But generally, this is Julia Roberts. Basically being Julia Roberts, being like a movie star, right? I think her name was Anna in this movie or something. And she's staying or hiding out in Hugh Grant's little flat or whatever with the, is it the red door? I think with the red door or something, in Kensington, and they fall in love and all sorts of stuff. But how do you deal with someone falling in love with someone who's just so super duper famous? Is like Julia Roberts, like she's she's a movie star. He's like this book shopkeeper, and it just this is a minor spoiler, but it's still, and you've probably seen this already on the internet, Peter, but it's spawned one of the greatest lines of all time in one of the greatest, performances in a scene of all time, where Julia Roberts gives this whole monologue, and at the end, she's like, "I'm just a girl standing before a boy, asking him to love me."
I always thought that was The Notebook.
No,
no, I'm not even doing a callback. I really always thought that was a line from The Notebook.
I know, Notting Hill and Notebook, somewhat similar titles, but yeah, just and what's interesting is that it's actually really funny too in spots. Like, it's not as funny as some of our top end movies, like not nearly as funny as Boomerang per se, but it's got a lot of like British humor when she meets the parents. There's a lot of the whole dinner is really funny. Just Hugh Grant, is a low key comedic genius, only because that whole affected mannerisms that he has with the stuttering, the stumbling, whatever, that's actually really well rehearsed. Like, that's like, he's somewhat like that in real person, but that's like a thing. Like, those are all like really well planned out as far as his performance. So I really enjoyed that movie. It's definitely heavy on the romantic side, and it's got nice light comedy. It's a good movie. Check it out. So Peter, what are some films that you want to cram in there but you couldn't do it? We're not Kuglering here. Denzel Washington's greatest podcast of all time, period, fans. No Kuglering, no making 7 or 8 for your top 5, okay? Go ahead. What almost made your cut?
Shout out to W. Kamal Bell.
Yes,
but,
sir.
Yeah, so two that I left out, and I'm saying two because these specifically launched the conversation when I first started discussing this podcast, the topic last night with my wife. The first two she suggested she knows are two favorites of mine, but I said to her, which I've repeated many times in this podcast, okay, I don't think that fits the criteria of what is a romantic comedy. So those two are The Devil Wears Prada, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Technically romantic comedy, yeah.
Well, but is it though?
It wasn't very funny, but that's the section. If we still had video stores, you'd find it in.
No, that's like the whole movie is about her career and her struggles with her boss, not her struggles with like a relationship of any type or anything like that.
Oh, you know what? Great point. And
a little bit.
Peter, though, really quick though. That brings a really good point. We almost, for lack of a better word, ghettoized a movie that had it's female centric. It's about a career woman. It's comedic in nature. It's not like Apatow slapstick comedic, but it's comedic in nature. And because its leads are women, we almost by default categorize it as romantic comedy. And I apologize. That's my bad. As a woke male who may or may not be a feminist, I feel bad that we even shoved in that category, because you're right. It's not about her relationship per se. Like, Adrian Grenier's there, but he's like window dressing. He's not really doing much. It's all about her and her career. Good point.
To be fair, though, my wife is the one who suggested it because she knows how much I love that movie. And the second that I told her that we were going to be talking about romantic comedies, she said,
get some airtime, huh?
Yeah, well, she goes, you got to do The Devil Wears Prada because you love that movie so much. And I'm like, I don't think you can consider that a romantic comedy. And then immediately after, we followed it up with another one, which is also an all-time favorite, but also I don't think a romantic comedy, in my opinion, Clueless.
And actually that... I think that's just a straight up comedy, but it is categorized as romantic comedy. Like, if you look it up on Google, it shows up in the list. Although, and actually it kind of is romantic comedy because there's a lot of it's really hormonal and teenagey, but it is the whole thing like Paul Rudd, and Alicia Silverstone, trying to hook up and stuff like that. That's really cool.
a little borderline incest thing going on at the end there.
You know, share and all that stuff. One of my favorite things that came from that movie. I mean, first of all, I was back when Stacey Dash was black. Yes, I said it. And she was everybody's, and I mean everybody's dream girl from Mo Money. I mean, oh my God, she was on so many posters in college. Yeah. Let me tell you. But one of my favorite little things from that is when Donald Faison, who is just coming to his own back there. Actually, I think it was his first real role, really, that we noticed him in. When he talked to her like, "Woman, come over here," and she was like,
let me get $5.
Yeah, and then she like check him. He's like, "Oh no, you know I'm just playing." To this day, I know it's wrong, and I do it as a joke, but sometimes I'll be like, "Woman, what are you talking about?" Like some of my female friends, and they take in the nature it's intended. Trust me. Okay, so all right, so the ones that didn't make the cut for me, and these were really hard, in no order of importance, are Sleepless in Seattle for obvious reasons.
Right.
I mean, it's a classic. Plus, also Seattle, and that houseboat culture, it's kind of real. I mean, my mom's boyfriend used to live on a houseboat for a long stretch, like 4 or 5 year stretch. And I mean, I hope he wasn't getting a lot of tail on that, other than my mom. Even then, that's kind of creepy. But I mean, I can totally see how that's like, you know, a really romantic setup. And I mean, I don't know, maybe when I'm 60 or whatever, and just want to like shut off from the world, maybe I'll buy a houseboat on Lake Union, like Tom Hanks' character had. So Sleepless in Seattle's great, and the whole Empire State Building end is awesome. What were you gonna say?
The whole the thing about Sleepless in Seattle that's funny is when I moved out here, I live in Washington State now. I live 5 hours from Seattle, but I live here, and I just for fun I was looking into articles about like moving to Seattle and stuff like that. And the first one I read very clearly stated like, listen, just because you watched Sleepless in Seattle and thought it looked amazing doesn't mean you should move here. There's some stuff you got to know before you move to Seattle. So I thought that was funny because, and also too, that I will say Sleepless in Seattle seems to be kind of objectively always really like number 1, number 2 all time top romantic comedies.
Yeah, it's up there. I mean, and probably because it's got every single romantic comedy trope possible. It's got a run. It's got, you know, long distance. It's got huge obstacles. It's got nearly missing each other. It's got, I mean, and then the whole letter convention is just so. I mean, it's got it all. It's hardcore cornball. It's Iowa field corn, straight up. So it's that. It's Say Anything. I mean, that almost goes without saying. I mean, the boombox, and once again, Seattle. I'm very partial to my city. Guilty as charged. Very partial, very proud of the 206. But yeah, Sleepless in Seattle. Now that's the one where they filmed, like, I think her graduation on our quad. I used to go to this really fancy, you know, private school called Lakeside. I was on full scholarship, trust me. But it's almost shaped like a university. I mean, and it costs at the time like 6 times University of Washington. It's like really expensive. But they filmed some scenes over there. Very fairly Seattle oriented. And I mean, who can relate to the pangs and of long after a woman and kind of doing whatever it takes to get her? Although I think that kind of breeds some weird stuff in our culture as far as like men are gluttons for punishment. But I do love how, I mean, that is the iconic scene with the boombox that, you know, has been played and replayed culturally time and again. And then the last one that I really wanted to put on there, and more, it's a little bit along the lines of well, it's pretty funny. And this is, and trust me, if I did this in a generally, you know, black audience, this would make everyone's list. Not to stereotype, I'm just saying from personal experience, this makes everyone's list when I'm around, you know, my people, is Love Jones. And it was really phenomenal when it came out, and it just kind of hasn't held up over time. But it's a fun movie. There's some definitely funny parts in it, and the romance it's hot and heavy in there. Like Nia Long, Lorenz Tate, young, hot, black, single, getting it in Chicago. I lived in Chicago actually, I think the year it came out. So I mean, all that stuff really spoke to me, and it's still a cultural touchstone for at least within my community.
Oh no, that's a great. I mean, Love is a great movie. You know, I think that that
whole poetry culture, that whole spoken word culture, the snapping.
Well, so but it's funny that you say that, because what I was thinking is kind of like there's some elements of that movie in Chirac. Like if you look at stuff that comes out now,
yeah,
like you know.
That might just be because it's Chicago culture. Like if you film in Chicago, you'll get a lot of that type of stuff. That attitude, like I mean, I think they went out like the whole like that jazz dance scene. I think was really. I mean, the really great lounges out there. There's a whole like adult scene, which actually I didn't really get a chance to participate because I was only like 21, 22 when I was there, and I was only there for about a year. But that whole thing, I could definitely see. You're right, is influenced in Chirac as well.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because bookended with Boomerang, you kind of have that's a perfect closer almost because you opened with Boomerang, which is, in my opinion, that's an underappreciated piece of black cinema. And then also now with Love Jones is also an underappreciated piece of black cinema. I think Love Jones. I think that definitely did not hold up as well as Boomerang, but even Boomerang is still kind of like. I remember, like, you and I have had so many conversations with people where you've been like, "Yo, Boomerang, Boomerang, Boomerang," and they're like, "Yeah, never seen it. Sorry." So
that's a great exactly.
That's a perfect closer.
It's funny that you say that about like how Love Jones has been appreciated. So I would say, I mean, from 1,000 feet away or whatever, that I would say that maybe in general, in predominantly white culture, Love Jones has been underappreciated. In predominantly black culture, Love Jones has been overappreciated to the point where I think it's been properly appreciated now.
That's fair.
That?
How about that? That actually. Yeah, I'm definitely speaking from as a white person because that's one that, like, me, I watch a lot of black cinema, and even that one is one that like I've seen once a really long time ago. Whereas if you take like like a Jungle Fever, or Mo Better Blues, or Clockers, or whatever, I've seen that shit a million times over.
Which may also go to the filmmaking too. I mean, nothing against Theodore Witcher. I mean, who knows what he's working on now? But he definitely captures lightning in a bottle in I think 1997, 98. But having been of that almost that age, like I think they were in their mid-20s. I was like 20 or something, or 19, 20, and when that came out, because we were so starved for black people that look and act like us, who were middle class, whatever, and having like real world stuff versus all the gangbanger stuff. Like we were so starved for that I think as a community we overvalued Love Jones over the years. But it's a good film. I enjoy it. I probably need to see it again. I owned it for a while, so it's good stuff.
I always still like the gangster side of the early 90s, late 80s, like Juice and New Jack City.
Yeah, some really good stuff came out of that. I'm just saying, I mean, some really bad stuff did too. But I mean, sure. I'm so glad when we see the whole, the diaspora, as they say.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, yeah, that was a perfect closer for you.
Yeah, thank you. And so just to get you guys acquainted, we've already missed our start time this week, so we won't really go over the shot list, but coming in future podcasts, we will have this thing called the shot list where we'll go over the values of actors that are in our current talent pool and for which you can draft to add to your call sheet so you can make some smart strategic choices to pick the winning call sheet that'll send you right to the top in the weekend's contest. Also, as a reminder that to check out our game, make sure to go to our landing page and sign up for an invite to the free beta at cinemadraft.co. That's cinemadraft.co. You can also find us on Twitter at PlayCinemaDraft, Facebook, CinemaDraft, Instagram at CinemaDraft, Medium / @CinemaDraft, and guess what? We're even on Pinterest. What? CinemaDraft. So if you have any inclination to touch base with us on social media, we appreciate it. We definitely want your feedback if this ever goes out. And I think this is a good time to wrap it up. Any final thoughts, Peter?
So I think that was a great first episode. I think you opened really strong, closed really strong. I had the dark horse with Titanic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm kind of regretting it, but nope, perfect, great. CinemaDraft.co.
All right, appreciate it, Zan. Here we go. Till next time.